Welcome to episode 3 of the Meatlocker, starring the great Jaws, Ron Jaworski, the great Baldy, Brian Baldinger.
Damn right.
Do you need a tissue or anything? Anthony? You all right? Man, you are fired up today, brother.
Damn right.
Man, to the Meatlocker.
Damn right. I got fucking fined. Excuse my language. Because I was
Let it fly.
late to the fucking Meatlocker.
Yeah, you were late,
all
man.
right?
Hey.
So I got fined.
Jaws, did
And
we
I'm
decide how much
pissed.
we're finding him? He buys his beers for the rest of the year, right? Not the first fine?
No, we're going to the champagne room.
The champagne.
We're going way beyond the beer. When Anthony buys, that's where we're going.
champagne room
Yeah.
it is.
All right, boys. It is episode 3 of the Meatlocker. Great guest, man, Kurt Warner.
Hall of Fame, Kurt Warner.
I mean, it's great. I didn't mean to use the language with Kurt. Kurt is,
Yeah, you're getting carried away.
yeah, Kurt is a terrific guy. What an amazing story. So he sits down in the Meatlocker with us with a really, you have to listen to it, a really, really great interview. Sit down with Kurt Warner. But boys, let's start it. We enter week 3 of the NFL. And look, you're not going to make the playoffs. You're going to win a division. You're not going to win a Super Bowl after a couple weeks. But you could certainly kill your season after 3 weeks. And there's a couple teams right now that are teetering. Most notably, we saw Monday night, the Giants. They were booed on their opening series. Right after their opening series, Jaws, the boos rang out at Giant Stadium.
Really? I must have not been paying attention, Anthony. I heard him at halftime when they were going into the tunnel.
The first
But,
3 and out.
Unless they can find a way to protect Eli Manning, they will be 0-3 when they leave Philadelphia at 4:30 on Sunday afternoon. Their pass protection has been dreadful. Eli's been sacked 8 times.
He's
Baldy,
started 200 straight games in a row, Jaws. There's no way
he won't make week 4.
Way.
I mean, my pen ran out of ink. I couldn't chart the hits quick enough. I was writing them down. It seemed every time he dropped back, he was getting whacked. He cannot last. And they can't run the football. They've had less than 100 yards in 2 games. Poor pass protection. You know, Brandon Marshall gets a chance to
drops
make a
a
play.
wide open. A great throw by Eli.
By the way, he's checked out. Baldy, you've been around the game. You've been around players.
He's there
checked
for
out.
TV. He's there for TV.
Well, I don't know why he's there, but he's checked out. The guy's got talent or had talent, but he's disinterested. And, you know, I feel bad for Eli right now. It's gotten to the point where he is perceiving pressure.
No, he's seen
like
ghosts.
falling down when people are around him.
He feels it.
Hey, if he ever pulled that stuff in Philadelphia, you know, falling down when bodies were around him.
They show a picture of that.
There's a one-way ticket out of town.
Yeah.
Don't come back.
All right, Baldy, makes sense of the protection. What is failing the Giants? And this is not something that we should be surprised about. We talked about this heading into the season. Jerry Reese said, I'm not going to do anything. I want to see this line grow and be cohesive.
He went with a 22-year-old Bobby Hart and a 23-year-old Eric Flowers. And Hart got hurt in the second play of the game. They took their left guard, who I think is their best player on the line, Justin Pugh. They put him at right tackle. They put Jones in there at left guard. And they try to put their best 5 out there. But Eric Flowers, I mean, look, I like Mike Solari. He's their offensive line coach. But Jaws,
he's one of the best in the business.
He's done it. I played for Mike. We should call him Machine Gun Mike. He's a stickler for detail. Jaws, when you watch that offensive line, there is no technique. Everybody's just grabbing. They're grabbing. Their hands aren't inside. They're all coming out wide. They're going to get flagged repeatedly. They got flagged at the 1-yard line, Jaws, you know, by the left guard on the play. Yep. And so that backed them up with a chance to
First and one at the 1.
Yeah. Next thing you know, they're at the 11-yard line. Because it was they're just grabbing. Everybody's just grabbing.
Well, when you watch Eric Flowers, and Baldy, you're a technique guy. You played the position. You made your living playing in the offensive line. Technique is non-existent. And I don't know what Mike is teaching them. Mike is the guy's been around a long time. You talk to people around the league, Mike Solari knows how to coach.
He coached me in 1987. Yeah. I mean, I know Mike Solari. I mean, he's been around that long.
And now you're doing radio with me, so it must have. But when you watch Eric Flowers, I mean, I don't know what you can do with a guy like that. I mean, he can't handle the bull rush. You watch Ziggy Ansah just handle
walk him right back to the
DeMarcus
quarterback.
Lawrence did whatever he wanted with him. You know, there's just no way that you're going to be able to play and block for Eli Manning with that technique. And to compound the problem, keep a back in. Put a tight end there.
Yeah, why?
Well,
good question. Why? I have no idea.
Because they said they thought Justin Pugh, who didn't take any snaps at right tackle, they said, let's give him the help. He's the new guy there. This guy Flowers in his third year. So they gave the help to Justin Pugh. But regardless, around the league, the Giants are just one of the teams with a bad offensive line. Around the league, Jaws, it's anemic. And look, we all know the reason. The reason is nobody plays a preseason. So I've been saying it for a long time. September's the new August. So
wait. It's more than just the preseason.
It is.
Yeah, that certainly is.
No, they're spending more time on
spread offense on Saturdays.
No, it's the new CBA.
All right.
You can't wear pads anymore. You know, the game's not played in shorts and a T-shirt. And I applaud the commissioner for trying to make the game safer. Sundays. This is not about Sundays. This is about the CBA. It was about the veteran guys that negotiated that deal of getting more years on their career. Now the game is suffering because players don't practice in pads. Mm-hmm. You know, so you can't work on proper technique. You know, Dick Vermeil said it best. We were talking about it earlier. You know, Coach said when all these rules came out, no one's ever gotten any better by practicing less.
Right.
And that's what's happening right now. All offensive linemen,
the only way
every
to
position.
get better at playing right guard is by playing right guard.
Play right guard.
You got to play right guard to become a better right guard.
And not hold a dummy at practice and not wear shorts and a T-shirt. That's not football.
No, but if you're a left tackle, you need to practice against a guy like Ziggy Ansah every day so that when you do get beat.
Yeah, but they do practice.
Pillows.
Pillows. You go to the team's got all this fancy stuff now. They
got those big tires to tackle.
They got all this garbage. I think these owners they spend $5 million on all these gimmicks and gadgets.
Give the Meatlocker $5 million.
Anthony may show up on time. But I mean, how about me going mano a mano and those tires don't move. No. Now they got these things that move. They got all this. It's not football.
No, it's not football.
The only way you can become a pass protector is
Charles,
to
I said this. Tell me if you
protect.
agree, Charles. I said if you want to fix your offense line, because the Giants didn't fix it. They didn't address it, and they didn't fix it. But the only way to do it right now is you could either go the Cowboys route and spend high picks on offensive linemen, or you could go the Raider route and just overpay for free agents. But either way, that to me looks like it's the only way you could do this right now.
Let me get in your head a little bit. This problem just didn't come up this year.
It's been going on.
It's been going on. You got Eli Manning, who's 35 years old. I mean, the guy is a rock. He's a pillar. I mean, he's played every game since he literally came
2004.
to the league. Yeah. I mean, the guy just lines up and plays every single week. Don't you think you can give this guy he's got a couple good years left, maybe?
Maybe.
He's got an outstanding wide receiver in Odell Beckham. Sterling Shepard's great. They got a guy at tight end who's really a wide receiver.
Yeah.
So how about we give him some help? They did squat. Mm-hmm. They did nothing to give Eli some help.
I don't understand what they're thinking in this. The basis of their offense is to go down the field. But you can't take a 7-step drop without – forget he doesn't get the 6 without guys in space.
No, but here's the thing, Jaws.
But you got to go down the field. They don't even
me
match
up on this, Jaws. I don't care what the name on the back of the jersey is. I don't care. If that quarterback is getting hit early, there's no way he's going to be solid in the game. There's no way he's not getting rid of it. There's no way he's not hearing footsteps, seeing ghosts, having happy feet. You guys are all the same, Jaws. You're all the same, Jaws.
Jaws never saw ghosts.
I mean, Jaws.
I don't see ghosts, though. I don't see ghosts.
Jaws doesn't believe in ghosts.
Yeah. But, I mean,
you're right.
We see Tom Brady in the Super Bowl games.
Let me start with this premise. We don't like to get hit.
We're the damn red shirt all practice long.
We don't like
every day.
And when we get hit, we're not happy.
No.
And if we can't get the weight in the back foot and stay tall in the pocket and step and throw, we're not happy. So you got to have an offensive line, or these 7-step drops are ridiculous. Where is the short game? I will guarantee you this. You won't see a 5-step drop or a 7-step drop out of Eli in the first quarter against Eagles. You will see bubble screens, slants, sticks, maybe a stick nod. But the ball will come out.
But here's the thing, though. If you think about it, they're built to go down the field. The Eagles' weakness is their secondary. Now, forget about their line, which is their front, which will decimate this Giants offensive line. but they're built nonsensically. Like, it's nonsensical how you're built because you need to go down the field and you can't hold your protection long enough to get down the field. Oh, what does bubble screens do for Odell Beckham against that Eagles secondary?
Well, they'll hopefully get someone out in front of him to block, and Odell can make a play in space. But the ball,
but to truly take advantage, you got to go down the field, right?
Not necessarily.
They need completion.
They need completions. They don't need.
I just don't understand.
And I agree. When you look at their talent, you think explosive plays. They're not going to have time. You can make explosive plays by the yards after catch, hitting a slant, hitting a flat, breaking a tackle. There's a lot of ways you can manufacture big plays, but they're not going to be manufactured by dropping back 7 steps or 5 steps and standing in a pocket for 2.5 seconds. Not going to happen with this offensive line. The first thing I'm going to watch for when I watch that Eagles-Giants game is Eric Flowers. Because the Eagles' defense is going to be, they're going to be fighting.
There should be a line at right end.
You know how we always saw like a defense end would line up and a linebacker would come up and like tap him on the butt and slide him down. He's going to turn around and say, "No, I'm not moving. Yeah. I'm staying right here. I'm staying right here. I'm getting a sack. You get paid for sacks."
All right, another team similarly. Talk about offensive line play. Wow, the Bengals are awful.
Yeah.
Now let's go last Thursday night, Bengals in Houston. Mm-hmm. Now, listen, I love the kid in college. The kid gets to start a quarterback, got no business starting a quarterback, and yet Houston wins on the one play he makes.
49-yard scramble.
Yeah. What in the world is going on with the Bengals and Andy Dalton?
I wish I had a definitive answer because when you looked at this roster of the Bengals preseason,
mm-hmm. A lot of talent.
Defense pretty good. Paul Gunther, coordinator, does a good job over there. I mean, you thought the defense would be good enough. Offensively, I thought they had a chance to be really, really good.
I did too.
You got, an A.J. Green, who's one of the most explosive players in the game.
Tyler Eifert.
Outstanding tight end.
LaFell solid.
And they get Joe Mixon.
Yep.
I mean, and I thought Joe, hey, we can debate this till the cows come home. I thought Mixon, despite his off-the-field issues, when you look at the talent, maybe have been the best player in this draft. Now, time will tell. Yet they can't score.
No, they haven't scored a touchdown.
They fired Ken Zampese, the offensive coordinator.
Who's a good coach and a good coordinator.
That's, you know what, and I agree with you. And I like Ken a lot. I really do. But he lost his job. But the coordinating is different than being a position coach. Okay. And I'm not there. I'm not in the building. I don't understand what they're doing. But there is a change.
From Jay Gruden.
From Jay Gruden and Hugh Jackson. And all of a sudden you got Zampese. But the guy can coach the quarterback position. I've spoken to him about the quarterback position many, many times. I have great respect for him in that regard. But coordinating the offense, play calling, being built to handle every situation in the game was a major problem for him. Major problem.
But, Jaws, I mean, Andy Dalton's missing Brandon LaFell on a double move wide open. He misses Tyler Eifert wide open in the end zone.
That's on him.
I mean, that's on the quarterback.
That's on him. I'm not going to dispute that. The quarterback has to play better.
Can either team salvage its season?
I think the Giants still can. I do because, they played without Janoris Jenkins and without B.J. Goodson the other day. And the Giants have some elite players defensively, and they're not the same if the Jackrabbit isn't playing corner. They're not the same. They have some great defensive players. They will keep the score down. They will make you earn your scores. I think defensively they can carry this team until the offense finds a way to find a groove.
Yeah, I would agree with Baldy. I think if there's a team, the Giants or the Bengals, that has a chance to turn it around, I would give the higher percentage to the Giants because they can play good, solid defense. Your guy, Steve Spagnuolo, he can coach defense. They have a lot of talent on the defensive side. Hey, not to denigrate Paul Gunther in Cincinnati because he's a damn good coach too. Yeah. But there's also another issue in Cincinnati with Marvin Lewis. Mm-hmm. Been there 14 years.
Doesn't have a contract after this year.
Does not have a contract. And you know what happens with players.
Yeah. He's not going to be here.
He's not going to be here. And all of a sudden, they become a little disinterested. That's very, very important. So I'm concerned about Cincinnati.
No, but you know the other thing about that, Jaws, is interesting. I remember when Brian Billick got the job in Baltimore in 99. After the 98 season, they lose the championship game to the Falcons. But anyways, he gets the job, and he got back then in 1999, it was a big contract. He got a 6-year deal, $10 million. It was a big coach's contract at that time. It isn't now, but it was important to him to get a big deal for respect and for street cred in that locker room. And players look at contracts, and they look at coaches, and they look at coaching extensions. They look at all that stuff. When Rich Kotite, 94, my last year, asked the owner.
They were 7-2.
They were 7-2, Jaws.
Yeah.
And he asked the owner for extensions for his assistant coach. He said, everything's an evaluation after the season. We didn't win another game. We lost 7 in a row. We went a tailspin.
Yep. 7-9.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, let's then go from the bottom to the top. And we saw the Atlanta Falcons make a statement on Sunday night. Wow, Matty Ice. I mean, look, there was a lot of questions. We know about Super Bowl teams that lose, particularly in the horrifying manner in which they lost. Falcons come back against a really good Packers team and just flex.
Very impressive win by the Falcons. And the season has been off to a good start for the Falcons. And I know everyone listened to all that off-season BS and all the training they did and the Super Bowls behind us. And all that sounds good. That's great media talk. That's the sweetness, nice things to say. But they really didn't know. They really didn't know how they would respond to that collapse in the Super Bowl. But you know what? They responded in a very positive way. So that speaks volumes for that football team, in my opinion, right now. The way they've started this season, Vic Beasley loss is going to hurt them, but it's not a season ender. So, he'll eventually.
Tack McKinley will come in.
Yeah, and they'll be all right. They'll be all right on the defensive side, but they are a juggernaut on offense. And Matt Ryan, continues to play at a very high level. I think Atlanta's a pretty solid football team right now.
To also back you up in that, Jaws, Dan Quinn's different. He's different than a lot of guys. That guy he's a leader. He's innovative. He coaches hard. I like the way he's attacking this whole thing. I really do. I mean, I think they put that whole thing behind him. I know everybody says that every year when they get beat, but there's something about Dan Quinn that makes me believe in that guy.
All right. I'm really curious about your guys' take on the AFC West. Clearly the best division in football. So you got the Raiders. They haven't really been tested, but they look good. Then you got Kansas City. Again, taking out New England, and then no letdown against the Eagles. And then you got Denver and San Diego. San Diego's actually performed well.
Well, they lost 2 games in a row in the last play, basically.
But they're going to be in with games. But Denver's the team I'm interested because you and I have had a disagreement over Simeon, the terrific quarterback out of Northwestern.
Why are you smiling when you say that? You got a little smirk.
Because he loves Simeon.
I don't love him. I just think that I trust John Elway in his evaluation of quarterbacks. And I like a lot of things that I liked a lot of things last year.
Osweiler, you trusted that?
Well, Anthony with the right hook.
We used to always go at it. We went at it over Osweiler.
Hey, he might be the quarterback before the season's over. You never know.
He made a decision on Osweiler. Let him walk. He stood his ground. He said, I like my 7th-round pick out of Northwestern, Trevor Simeon, and he let him walk. Now, he's back there right now because they need a guy because Paxton Lynch is hurt and he knows the system. But I just think when I watch Trevor Simeon, I see athletic ability. I see touch. I see anticipation, Jaws. He threw a pass over the top of Dallas, the zone, into Emmanuel Stewart the other day. A lot of guys wouldn't have pulled the trigger on it. I mean, it was a perfect touch throw against a zone defense designed to take the throw away, but he made the throw. He's got a little fearlessness about him, Jaws.
Yeah, Baldy, I agree with you. And too often we disagree about the quarterback position. And, we could talk mechanics, which, I'm always a wonk for, and I look at, but we all watch the tape. Trevor Simeon knows where to go with the football.
Yeah.
His progression is very good. He goes through it quickly. And in the big picture, when you watch a game, you look at a quarterback, and is he comfortable? And Trevor Simeon looks like a very comfortable quarterback.
I bring that up.
It's not like happening too fast. There's never a panic mode to his game. He hasn't made a lot of dumb, stupid mistakes like young quarterbacks do. And I'll agree with Baldy. I'm a John Elway guy. If John understands the quarterback position.
I'm bringing up Simeon because of Baldy, because he saw something in him, and he played a flawless game against Dallas. And, man, that defense is still nasty. I mean, they just take out.
Yeah. But, we've always known about Aqib Talib and Chris Harris Jr. We've always known about those guys. But Adam Gotsis, I'll tell you that Domata Peko can play nose tackle when he's 40. You can't move that guy.
He's a rock. Just stands there.
And so,
I like that.
Like when you look at Shaquille Barrett, opposite right now of Von Miller, who's the most disruptive player in the game. I mean, they got pieces on every level.
All right, one place you guys just don't want to go to, because when you talk about playing at Denver, it's still nasty. So give me one place you don't want to go. The one place that you do not want to go.
In today,
right now, these teams, Atlanta, turf because of turf.
I'll still say Denver for me.
Yeah,
I never wanted Denver.
That's a trick question, so I got to think about this. Where don't you want to play?
I stumped Jaws.
You got me with that one. and Baldy's got a good one. Probably Oakland.
Yeah.
I think when Oakland starts winning again, we know that the stadium's a toilet. It's a
You're on a baseball diamond.
I love it.
The bus pulls up into that place. The gangs are hanging out front. You got to see. The black hole in one end zone.
They're frying something. It might not. It might not be like chicken.
There's a lot of smell in the air.
Like
it's kind of, and as they win, and the Raiders will win, they're a good football team, and Jack Del Rio's done a hell of a job putting that team together, and that's going to be a tough place to play. It hasn't been in the last few years, but it's coming back, and I think in Oakland, although they're going to be moving shortly to Vegas
3 years.
for a few years, that's going to be a tough place to play.
All right, Jaws, it's time now for you to rank the quarterbacks. Nobody knows quarterbacks. He's a wonk.
I love it.
Give us your top five of this week.
I think the guy that's playing great football right now is Matt Ryan. We spoke about him a moment ago. He's playing at a ridiculous high level.
Where he left off last year, Jaws.
And he'll continue because he's got a repertoire around him.
Yep.
They have balance on offense. They run the ball well. He's averaging almost 10 yards per attempt, which is a ridiculous number, with the way the game is now played.
Good.
He's there. Derek Carr playing tremendous football. And it was funny having Kurt Warner and talking to Kurt, and he's looking at Derek Carr, one of those guys that
Kurt's
could someday have the gold jacket on. So you got to, and the guy that has impressed me this season has been Alex Smith. Yep. And he just seems to be making plays. Obviously, week one, he had a tremendous game against the Eagles. Not as good, but when he had to make plays, he made plays in the passing game. And Matthew Stafford. Hey, let's give the guy some love. I mean, Stafford is, another come from behind win week one. Monday night, just throwing lasers all day against the Giants. Matthew Stafford
and that's
playing
a tough
well.
defense.
And Brady, how about this comeback?
Oh, my gosh.
He has one of his poorest games against the Chiefs.
He goes down to New Orleans, Jaws. He did anything he wanted to do.
Yeah, he threw 3 touchdown passes the first quarter. Can we dispel the myth that, he's 40 years old?
And you can start to see Philip Dorsett, Rex Burkhead, you can see these guys fitting in, to that offense right now, Jaws.
I grab my phone. People can't see this because we're talking. But and I always say, Bill Belichick has a picture of his team, what it's going to look like in December.
Yeah.
That's what Bill is great at.
It's going to be different.
He's going to tweak now. He's going to mix. Baldy, you said it. Look at what he did already in 1 week, how that team changed. Hey, they looked awful against Kansas City. They were done. Mm-hmm. But he's got that picture. He's going to tweak and do things he knows what he wants his team to look like going into the playoffs.
All right, Baldy, time now. You are the man. And you got to follow Baldy at Baldy NFL and his Instagram videos that are amazing, making the rounds all across the world, Joss.
Baldy does great videos.
Oh, my God.
He does football. He does
all 22
Love
breakdowns.
It. Baldy's my guy, man. Baldy's my guy.
You got the Eye in the Sky master, that is Jaws, and you are the master of the all 22 breakdown and the Instagram. You have people in Venezuela.
Yeah.
They're
following around the world.
So do they know what football is in Venezuela?
Yeah, they do, Joe.
Okay, thank you.
It's all throughout South America. I'm very popular right now. Throughout a lot of Latin America, they're following. Okay?
He is Armando.
Because the world is flat. The world's flat, so you can watch this stuff all over.
I love working with you, Baldy. I learn something every time we do the Meatlocker. It's great.
The thing that was that that reached out to me that I enjoy doing is, if you're at ESPN or you're at NFL Network, we talk about 8 teams exclusively. We don't give any, like the Jets aren't a good football team. They give no love to the Jets. All right, we'll talk about the Cowboys. We'll talk about the Raiders. We're going to talk about 8 teams. We'll talk about Green Bay, Atlanta. But, the Jets are a bad team, but Jamal Adams is an unbelievable player.
LSU.
He's an unbelievable player. So on Sunday, Beast Mode, Marshawn Lynch, was running from the 2-yard line. And he was running far to his left, all right? And he was getting ready to turn the corner. And Jamal Adams chased the play from the backside. He jumped over 2 different piles of bodies and took down Beast Mode at the 1-yard line, saved the touchdown. Like, just the effort alone.
I love that.
Just the effort.
That's those LSU, man. Those kids.
It's LSU, but his dad played in the league.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's that kid doesn't look at the scoreboard. He doesn't look around him and say our team stinks. He just goes and plays the game with joy, with an unbridled joy to the whole thing. My next favorite play was I'm watching Tennessee last night, Jones. You know how you get when it's late at night? It's 10 o'clock. You've been at it for 12 hours.
You were just coming in. You were out with Anthony down the town somewhere. The Champagne Lounge.
I got Tennessee in. I saved them for last because I knew the offensive line would play really well after losing to Oakland the week before. And they took the Jacksonville Jaguars apart in the way that you can only appreciate if you slow the game down and you watch it from the end zone angle, right, Jaws?
Yep.
And you're watching these double teams where I couldn't fit your credit card in between the 2 shoulders of the guys putting the double team together. And I'm watching hat on a hat. And I'm watching power football, the
Old school
power football. So they're at the 17-yard line. Derrick Henry, King Henry, is in the backfield, right? DeMarco Murray's done his job. Like, he got him to the 4th quarter, but they put Derrick Henry in to finish the game, right? And I'm telling you, Jaws, they don't have a wide receiver on the field. They got a fullback. They got 3 tight ends. They're going right at him, right? And I'm telling you, you look at the right side, and they got an extra tight end in there, and Dennis Kelly from the Eagles. And there's my favorite right tackle league, Jack Conklin, just mauling people, right? I see Derrick Henry. They get him to the 2nd level. And then here comes Barry Church, who's had a lot of big hits in his day. And he gives him the violent stiff arm. And down goes Church. And he's got one more guy to beat.
Violent stiff arm? I love it.
And then he's got one man to beat, Jalen Ramsey, who's playing safety because there's no wide receivers on the field. So they got him at safety. And he trucks Jalen Ramsey to get in the end zone. And I watched it, and I go, that's the best movie I've seen in years. It's better than anything the Academy Awards got going.
That's called football.
That's football.
That's called football.
It was just really enjoyable to watch.
You could see about how many videos you have up this week?
I had like 52.
50 of them at Baldy NFL.
At Baldy NFL, yeah.
At Jaws ESPN.
At Jaws ESPN.
All right, there's you go. I'm at Anthony L. Gargano. I just retweet these guys. Coming up, you don't want to miss it. A sit down in the meat locker with Kurt Warner, Hall of Famer. But first, let me tell you about DraftKings. Football season has begun. It's not too late to get closer to the game we love with DraftKings 1 Week Fantasy Football. This Sunday, DraftKings hosting a $100,000 Pick'em contest, totally free to enter. Pick'em is the newest way to play 1 Week Fantasy Football. Drafting your team is faster than ever. See, what happens is DraftKings has organized players into 8 tiers. All you have to do is select one player from each tier. Choose between public contests with big cash prizes or private contests where you can compete against a group of your buddies, like right here in the Meat Locker. DraftKings also has beginner and casual contests where you'll play against people of similar skill level. Best part is you get to draft a new team each week without any commitment. So get to DraftKings.com now. Use the promo code MEATLOCKER to play in DraftKings free contest, $100,000 in total prizes this Sunday. That's promo code MEATLOCKER to compete for your share of $100,000 in total prizes. Contest totally free to enter, so why wouldn't you try? DraftKings, a game inside the game. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details. All right, we are here with the legend. Congratulations, Hall of Famer. He is the best. Kurt Warner with us. Kurt, you got to take me back to Amsterdam. Take you and Baldy.
Wait, Anthony.
Watch
let me interrupt you a second, Kurt. I could care less about Amsterdam, the World League. Let's go back to the Iowa Barnstormers.
No, Jaws. I don't care about your Arena League, Jaws. I want to go all the way back to the Green Bay Packers.
Hey, my team's a world champions.
Take us back to Iowa, then, dude. We got to appease the Godfather over here, Kurt.
There's just too many places to go. We can't just go straight to the NFL. But I mean, it's the crazy part. I mean, it's the beautiful part of the whole thing is, and meeting both of these guys in different ways over the years, whether it be the World League, having the ties with Jaws to the Arena League. That's the blessing of the story, is that for so long it was, why me? Why do I have to go this route? Why do I have to get cut? Why do I have to play in Arena League? Why do I have to play in Europe? And now when it's all said and done, you look back and go, man, thank God that was me. Thanks for the story that I'm able to take with me and that I'm able to share and hopefully encourage people through. So, it's so funny how life works, that oftentimes, what we want or what we think we want and don't have, we're yearning for that. And then when it's all said and done, we look back and go, man, I had everything I wanted, and I'm so grateful for the path that I took.
Yeah, hey Kurt, Coach Vermeil and I sit next to each other at Philadelphia Soul Arena Football League games. He's obviously a part owner of the Soul, as I am. And we sit there, and he goes, now I know why Kurt was so good. Now I know why Kurt was so good. Look at the quarterback change his platform. Look at him move out of that rush. And
look at him get rid of the football.
Get rid of
quickly.
The ball. So maybe you can explain better than anyone, because you parlayed that Arena League career into Hall of Fame career in the NFL. Why did the Arena Football League help you?
Well, there's a couple ways to look at it. People ask me that question all the time. And, the first thing I always say is, I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg, from the standpoint of, were those skills that I had before in the Arena League just brought them out and honed them, or were those skills that I didn't have that going to arena football, it taught me how to do those things? I don't know which one it was, but without question, a couple things. First of all, you have to be accurate in that business. That, the field's so small, the windows are so tight, they close so quickly. You have to be extremely accurate. You have to be able to make quick decisions. Without question, everything just happens faster. Whether it be the pass rush coming at you because they're, only coming from, basically the guard spot in the NFL instead of the tackle spot. Everything happens quicker from that standpoint. The ability to, elude the rush and make those movements and keep your eyes down the field. And then I think maybe the most valuable thing about the Arena Football League for me was that you threw on every snap. And so every game was dictated by the quarterback. There was never going to be a game where you handed the ball off 25 times and won in arena football.
That's a season.
Yeah, exactly. You had to outscore people. And, every drive was like a 2-minute drill, and you were expected to score every time you touched the football. And that type of mentality and that type of environment just hones certain skills and certain beliefs. People always look at the greatest show on turf and they're like, oh my gosh, you guys made it look so easy and you're scoring 45 points. And I remember I'd go home after a game and I'd be disappointed because we punted 3 times. Like, we're not supposed to punt. We're supposed to score every time we touch the ball. So that mentality carried with me when I got to the Rams. And I think it was part of the reason why, I felt like I was going to succeed and we were going to score points and we weren't supposed to be stopped.
Kurt, the Arena League is like a passing academy, the way you just described it. But I thought the biggest thing, not just for you, Kurt, but for any young quarterback trying to, to become an NFL quarterback, is you got a chance to play both in Iowa and then, of course, over in Amsterdam. I mean, you got a chance to play, to lead, to do the different drills. That had to be something that when you look at the league right now, a lot of these young guys, they don't get that opportunity. And it's hard to develop quarterbacks in the league as you're trying to win football games.
I don't think there's any question about it. That I often tell people that when I was in Green Bay and got cut by Green Bay, from the time I got cut from Green Bay until the day I retired, Brett Favre did not miss a single start in the National Football League. And so had I made the Green Bay Packers team at the time and I was the third string guy, who knows when I would have ever got on a football field and played football again. 3 years, 4 years, maybe you show enough in preseason that like a Matt Hasselbeck or somebody, you bounce to another team and get a chance to start. But as you said, in that 4-year period, there is no doubt that I took more snaps and played more games than any backup quarterback in football anywhere. And so, the first thing is I'm coming out of college having played 1 year in college. So there was no question I wasn't the same quarterback then that I was when I got back into the NFL. And so I can only, assume that all that time and all that experience and all those different scenarios that I faced, different types of leadership roles, different teams, all those things were just extremely valuable. So when I got my shot, a few years later, I was so ready for it because I had played a lot of football. And, that's the other side that people don't look at, is that, most people see my story and they go, oh, that's the guy that sat on the bench for 4 years and then got cut by Green Bay and then worked in a grocery store and then played arena football, whatever that was, and then won the Super Bowl. And what they don't see is, for me, I played 1 year in college and I was the player of the year in my conference. I played 3 years in arena football and I went to 2 championships and was voted the top quarterback in the league my 3 years there. Went to Europe and I was the top statistical quarterback in Europe. So when I got there, all I had known is when I got between the lines, I succeeded. I played well. And so when everybody else saw me as the guy coming from the grocery store, my mentality was, oh, I'm in between the lines again. I'm going to succeed. I am going to be successful because I always have been. It's just I was the only one that saw that. Everybody else saw more of the negative stuff or the stuff that didn't work in my favor. And so that was my mindset when I got there and people asked me, did you know you would be successful? Well, I sure believed I was going to be successful because there had never been a point where I wasn't when I was actually playing between the lines.
It's interesting because you bring up the journey, what people see. They also didn't see being in a strange land. Like here you are in Europe in a place where they don't know football. and by the way, it's just a completely alien place for you being in Amsterdam. Like when there's got to be moments where you woke up and go, where the heck am I?
Well, I mean, it's so funny because I had just gotten married a few months before, and my wife and I found out that she was pregnant with our first child together. All this is happening, and then all of a sudden I get this chance to go to Europe, and I'm like, okay, we had talked about this before. Is it okay if I leave for 3 months right now and just kind of disappear and go to Europe? So there were so many different things going on in that time period and, at that moment. But the other part of it is that, I grew up spiritually when I was in Amsterdam too, because it was a great challenge for me as an individual. But also from a football perspective that, I was married, I was going to have a baby. I wasn't looking for anything else but football. So when I went over there, I was with a bunch of guys that were coming out of college and they wanted to go to the red light district and they wanted to hang out and they wanted to go drink at the bars. I had one purpose and one purpose only, and that was to play football and get another shot and prove that I could play in the NFL. So there's part of it that you look at and go, man, that must have been just a weird scenario. But there was another part where, and you never want to say this, but, my family was back here and there was nothing really pulling me away. And so I got those 3 months to just go, this is my last shot. This is my last chance to prove to someone I deserve an opportunity to compete at the NFL level. Let me just focus in on that. And so I'm very fortunate that my wife was so supportive and, we had people around us that could support her back here and allow me that one last chance to really chase this thing because, I knew at that point, I'm 27 years old, that was probably it for me. And like I said, I'm so fortunate I wouldn't be where I'm at and all the things that came with it had I not had supportive people and a supportive wife that says, okay, we know it has to go this route. Give it one more shot. We'll figure out a way to handle things back home and you do your thing.
Kurt, you and I have a strong connection with Dick Vermeil. And, he really is still like a father to me. That's how much I respect and love the man. And he gave me the opportunity. In St. Louis, Trent Green goes down. You get the opportunity. How important was it to have a guy like Dick Vermeil who pours his heart and soul into the quarterback position to have the confidence in you to lead his team to eventually go and win the Super Bowl?
I mean, it's everything, and especially when you take a journey like mine. You need those. I mean, everybody needs those people. I don't care how good you are. Everybody needs someone to believe in them and give them a chance. But even more so me, because I just didn't get very many of them. So I needed that person that would step out. And as I said in my Hall of Fame speech, I mean, the coolest thing was that it wasn't even really anything that he had seen. You know, that first year when I made the team, I played in one preseason game and I threw 4 passes, and everything else was just practice. So he really had absolutely nothing to go on other than his gut feeling and just going, you know, there's just something different about this guy. You know, that's what he told me when I made the team. He's like, there's just something different about you, and I couldn't let you go without seeing if what I believed or what my gut said was the truth. And that's exactly what I needed, because I hadn't really proven anything to anyone in the short time I was there and the limited snaps I got. So I needed someone like that. But, you know, it was funny when I was writing my Hall of Fame speech, and this part ended up getting cut out, but I was just thinking about, he's the one that gave me the shot. But at that point in time in his career, he was the old guy that everybody was saying, well, he's been out of the game too long, and he's really got to prove himself on whether he can play at this. And so everything he was dealing with, because as you know, Jaws, it was 20 years between when he took you guys to the Super Bowl, and then we went back to the Super Bowl.
That's correct.
You know, and everybody was just saying the game passed him up. He's too old. He can't do this. And so as I was thinking about it, I'm like, we were the same guy at that time. And the Rams gave both of us an opportunity, along with Dick giving me an opportunity to prove everybody wrong. And so there's so many connections between the two of us. And that was just something I had never really even thought about until I was writing my speech. And I'm like, and isn't it crazy that, you know, we had such similar journeys in a lot of respects. And we found ourselves in the same place, the same time, trying to prove the same things. And then we were able to win, you know, our only championship together and kind of solidify our own careers and solidify what we had become together. And so there were just so many connections. And, you know, I did something down at the Hall of Fame with Dick, and we were talking. And the amazing thing is, when people think of my career, and even when I think of my career, I think, oh, well, you know, Dick Vermeil is such a huge part of it. And he is, but we were really only together for 1 year when I started.
Wow.
And it's hard for me to even fathom that. I'm like, oh my gosh, we are so close and we're so connected, and it just feels like I was with him for 10 years. And we were really only together for 1 year, because after the Super Bowl, after winning it, he decided to retire before stepping back with Kansas City. But it's amazing. That's the kind of impact that guy had on me, where even me that lived it felt like I was with him for 10 years, and I was only with him for really that one solid season.
Well, if you wouldn't retire, you'd have won numerous Super Bowls. I keep telling him that all the time. How could you walk away from that team? You know?
Hey,
I was trying to ask him the same thing. Right afterwards, I'm like, Coach, well, hold on.
Think about it, right?
Let's sit down and have a glass of wine, and let's figure this thing out.
No, you can have a bottle of wine. That's what you needed to convince him. That Vermeil wine especially.
Kurt, take us through the 99 season is magical. You step in at quarterback, you draft Torrey, Marshall's traded for, all these things happen. But I remember me and Kurt Menefee were doing a lot of your games early that year, Kurt. I remember you guys went to Cincinnati, and I think Oz Hakeem had like 3 touchdowns that day, maybe a punt return for a touchdown, and really nobody knew who Oz Hakeem was at that time. And I remember me and Kurt walking out of, Paul Brown Stadium that day going, this team is for real. When did you think, Kurt, you guys for real that year?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that Cincinnati game. And I remember going into that game, and the headline going into that game was whoever lost that particular game was going to be the losingest team of the 90s. It was either us or Cincinnati. That's where the Rams organization was at that time. And we had won a couple games before that, like you said. And then we came out and we beat Cincinnati pretty good. And the cool part, as you mentioned, was it was a different guy. Oz out of nowhere, has 4 touchdowns that day. And, Marshall before that, and then Torrey. And then it was actually the next game we played San Francisco. And San Francisco had beat us 17 straight times. And so all we heard about that whole week was, you hear quotes from the San Francisco guys, it's the same old Lambs. I know they're 3-0, but it's the same old Lambs that, that this team has no chance. They got to go through us. And, I didn't really understand what, 49er week was all about. But then you watched Isaac Bruce and you saw him kind of change into a different mode. I mean, he was a quiet and focused guy anyways, but it was different on 49er week. And, and you could kind of feel it, like if we're going to be anything and we're going to do anything, obviously we got to win our division first, but we have to beat the 49ers. If we go 3-1 and our one loss is to the 49ers, it doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
The mentality you could tell was just going to drop. And so we came out in that game, and as I said, Isaac was kind of spearheading this whole thing, and he caught 3 touchdown passes in the first quarter.
Cool.
And he was hyperventilating on the sideline because he was so amped up and so excited, and just kind of leading the way. And we ended up destroying the 49ers. We scored 21, 28 points in the first quarter and just blew them out of the water. And that was kind of the moment where, for me, I'm like, okay, we got something here. Nobody expected this. 4 games in, we just beat the 49ers, who have really owned our division. We got a chance to be special, and you were starting to see different guys emerge every week. And that was the coolest thing is, oh, you're going to take away Marshall? Okay. Isaac's going to get you 3 touchdowns. Oh, you can take away Isaac and Marshall? Okay, Oz is going to get you 4 touchdowns. And then there's Torrey. And then, you have Ricky. You have all these guys. And you start to think, man, it's going to be tough to stop us. And then you think about Mike Martz and his mentality more than anything. He had an Arena League mentality where we were going to score and we were going to attack and we were not going to let up and we were going to spread out and we were going to force the issue with every team that we played. And you put all that talent with that kind of mentality and the same kind of mentality at quarterback, and you started to realize, okay, we got a chance to be really special.
Kurt, then after that magical year, and then New York happens. And
that's a good way to put it.
Right,
New York happens.
It just happens. But
good answer.
From the time you get there, take us through that, because part of every journey is before you get back to the mountaintop, you have to dip. It's almost part of the law of a journey like yours. So take us through the whole process of being there.
Yeah, and there's different ways to look at it because, I understand where everybody says there's kind of this donut hole or that dip in it. But that was a critical time for me. And, from different perspectives is that, the first thing, again, that when I look at this, I go, the team that I inherited that year, even for the 9 games, was 4-12 the year before. It was a team that was in shambles. And, of course, Coach Coughlin came in, and there was a bunch of questions about that whole thing as we were going through the season. But in we won 5 of our first 7 games. Now, a lot of people look at that and they're like, Kurt Warner's throwing for 200 yards a game, and he's, maybe throwing a touchdown a game. And they're looking at it and going, man, he's not the same guy. He can't play anymore. And I was looking at it and going, hopefully people are seeing that, yeah, maybe I don't get to play like we played the greatest show on turf, wherever I go. But hopefully they're looking at it and going, but this guy's coming in and he's winning football games. And he's doing it differently, and he's got to lead a different way, and the offense has a different mentality. And that, to me, is what I took from that time more than anything, that this is a great challenge for me because it's not me just going out and winning games with my right arm. It's me showing that I have to find a way to be able to lead this group differently. I got to be able to manage Coach Coughlin with the players and the players with Coach Coughlin and have to manage, okay, I'm going to get to throw it on 3rd down. And that's pretty much it. And I got to find ways to make plays on 3rd downs for us to get 1st down and win football games. And so, a lot of people look at that as a dip. I looked at that as a new challenge and a different challenge for me. But I know a lot of people were looking at it and saying, and having the perspective, oh, this isn't the same guy. He's not throwing for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns every week. I don't know if he can play in the league anymore. And I was fortunate that I had a guy like Denny Green who went and actually watched the tape and looked at what we were doing and looked at all the issues we had as an offense and said to himself, this guy can still play. It might be between the lines a little bit because of the situation he's in, but this guy can still play. And he brought me to Arizona and gave me another opportunity when there was only a few people that looked at it and were willing to go a little bit deeper. But that was a huge growing moment for me that, that you can't always lead and win and play at this level the same way. That sometimes you got to reinvent yourself and go, okay, I got to do it a different way. This is how coach wants to do it. But I still have to find a way to lead men and win football games. And so I left New York with a lot of pride on what we accomplished in those first 9 games, even though it didn't play out like I wanted it to, or it didn't look like I wanted it to, and it didn't play to my strengths. there was still a lot I took from that moment and that, kind of donut hole that really helped to shape, again, my character and helped me to be able to bounce back again in Arizona.
Hey, Kurt, let me take it a little bit to the future right now, or the present, as I've watched this Giant team over the first 2 weeks of the season.
Kurt, as I'm watching Eli and the pressure break and the protection break it down.
There's nothing. There is no protection. That's an oxymoron when you talk about the Giants' O-line. But if you bring it to the present, Kurt, and you're watching Eli Manning just get pummeled right now. I'm watching offensive line play throughout the league through 2 weeks. It's really down. How can a quarterback in today's game, and I know how much you study the tape and watch the quarterback position, much like the film wonk I am, how can quarterbacks sustain excellence when you have an offensive line that can't keep you upright?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things there. Is that offensive line and quarterbacks, I think, suffer as well, Jaws. That's one thing we're seeing around the league, that quarterback play outside of that, those elite guys, there's a lot of really shoddy quarterback play.
And there aren't many elite guys anymore, to be honest.
No,
I think if you look, there are very few elite players to that position.
You're exactly right. And so if you look at two positions, when you don't get game speed type reps, practice reps, you can do whatever you want in a walkthrough. There's a million guys that can tell you what they're going to do on the board or what they're going to do if these two guys are blitzing at a walking pace. What you can't do is simulate game speed, these guys blitzing. How do I react to that in a matter of 2.5 seconds and do the right thing with the ball? Same thing with offensive linemen. It's easy to see a twist when the defensive linemen are walking. It's easy to make that adjustment. Oh, pass that off.
Hey, Kurt, are teams still doing that ballroom walkthrough on a Saturday night?
Yeah,
are they still doing those? Oh,
they're still doing those. But actually what they're doing is half of their practices are that.
Yeah.
Because they don't get the practice. So, to me, there's certain positions that really suffer without game speed, contact, being able to mesh with what the game's going to look like. And that's offensive line and quarterback. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of, struggles at those two positions. So the next part becomes how does a team succeed? Well, I think what you're seeing in this league is, if you go back and look, Jaws, back when we played, when you played, when I played, we hardly ever threw the ball within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage.
Exactly.
I mean, our ball.
I didn't know what a bubble screen was.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Our quick game, was obviously the slant 6-7, but half of these guys throw 250, 300 passes within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage now. And so that's one way that they're getting away with it, is that, they're throwing all these quick screens and you can't bump and run as much as you used to. And so you can block, a little bit quicker than you used to in those bubble screens. And so you see so many quick throws. The run game is also, it's a run pass option. You always got somebody out there that you can throw it to if the box count is different. So all of those things I think helps. But the teams that I see that really struggle, kind of like the Giants, are teams that don't have a really, really good quick game. That they don't design, when I remember when I played in Arizona, our offensive line wasn't the most stout offensive line. So we would go in every week and we would have a huge quick game package. We would have all kinds of different concepts so we could get back 3 steps, get the ball out of our hands, get it into our playmakers' hands and play. And what I see with a lot of these teams is that they'll have the bubble screen game, the now game, and then they'll have the second level game, but they don't have the quick game that can really help out a quarterback and an offensive line. When you can get the ball out of your hands, obviously you don't get hit as a quarterback. But it also helps an offensive line because the defensive linemen get tired of rushing and the ball's out. And then the ball's out. And then they start slowing down and they're trying to jump to get the balls. All those kinds of things really help an offensive line as well. And so I would love to see some of these teams be better in the short game, be better at designing and creating opportunities for their quarterback, offensive linemen, and receivers, not the bubble screen, but good designed, quick game where you can still make big plays on them. You can still, gain 7, 8, 9 yards. They're not gadget plays, but they help out everybody and they help out the ability to be able to hold the ball every once in a while and sling it down the field.
Kurt, I keep telling people that September is the new August. Nobody plays in August. I mean, you got a chance to play in 99 because your quarterback got hurt in August. So when you watch these games now, Kurt, to me, it's just an extension of preseason. And to make an evaluation of who's good, who isn't good, I don't care if the Giants are 0-2 or not right now, or any of the other teams that are struggling. It's almost like you have to get through this period to figure out what your weaknesses are, and then how do you fix those weaknesses. I know you played a lot in preseason back then, but do you look at it sort of the same way right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything is about getting up to game speed. You know, people are always talking about, well, cutting down the preseason games or too long, whatever. I love the preseason for what it was. You know, now there were seasons where I would go into the preseason and I would take, 3 series, one in each game, and I'm like, I'm ready to go. I'm good. Then there's others where I'm like, okay, I need a few more. I need to get up to game speed. I need to see things. I need to feel things.
It was your own feel then, Kurt. Your own feel about it.
Exactly. It was all about my own feel. And so I think different guys are different from that perspective. I know a bunch of guys that are rep guys. Yeah. And by that, I mean, if they're going to run any kind of a route, I can't just, when we were in St. Louis, we would run routes in games that we never practiced. We drew it up on a board, and those guys could just go and do it, based on the way the system was and what we asked. So, and just the way they were wired. And then there was other guys and great players like a Larry Fitzgerald, who was a rep guy. Mm-hmm. We would have to rep the same route 4 or 5 times for him to get a feel for, okay, this is where Kurt's going to throw it. This is what the timing of that is. And, and I think it's the same in preseason, is that you got to get some certain reps, the timing reps and the certain throws and seeing things, you need quick pressure every once in a while. You need to get hit every once in a while, and you need to get that feel for things so you're ready for the regular season. And I'm so much with you, Baldy, that so many of these guys, they don't get that anymore. You're so worried about them getting injured or whatever, or you're protecting them or whatever it might be, that they don't get any reps. And you're starting to see that early in the season. And it's frustrating for teams. It's frustrating for fans because you're not getting the best football, early in the season. And it frustrates a lot of people. Not that it, ultimately, who knows how it dictates the end in the playoffs, but it's just not the best product, for the players to put out there, but also for our fans to be able to sit home and watch. They want to see us to be able to line up week 1 and get this thing rolling and guys playing at top form.
Kurt, just real quick, and we appreciate this very much. It's just so enjoyable. Take us back to the end of the journey, and I just want to know, was Canton everything you thought it would be?
You're saying that what now? The journey?
Was Canton?
Oh, the Canton part
was Hall of Fame.
Gotcha.
Was that everything you thought it would be?
I don't really know what I thought it was going to be. I think the hard thing is I still wonder how I fit into the whole thing. So I wasn't one of those guys, and I just use guys from this year, like an LT, that you just knew it was coming. Right. You just knew you were going to be in the Hall of Fame. Right. And so you could kind of prepare yourself for, okay, I'm going to be there one day. Yeah, I belong there like everyone else. For me, I didn't really know. I understand the arguments for and the arguments against. And so, these last 8 years, I haven't really thought about it much. Being in the conversation, I was honored, but I never really thought about, okay, my time's going to come and it's going to be so cool because I belong with that group. I never really felt like that. And so, it was a bit weird that weekend to feel like I fit in with all these great players. I mean, when you go to that gold jacket dinner and you walk down, the aisle and you have all the Hall of Famers on both sides of you. And I was walking down and I would just see guys and I would remember them playing, when I saw them, guys like Mel Blount or Dan Marino, Jack Youngblood, with the broken leg. I mean, those are the things I saw when I was walking down there, these guys that really shaped my view and my passion for the game. And it was hard for me to go, I belong with these guys. So I'm still kind of trying to feel my way through it. But I will say, the experience is obviously incredible. To be up there with some of my teammates, with the number of guys I played against. But probably the coolest part for me was to get to know these guys that I only knew from watching them on TV. I only knew from watching them play the game, and to find out the men behind the player. And I think there's a part of us that all knows you don't get to the Hall of Fame or most people don't. There's always those rare athletes that can get there just because they're freaks. But most guys, there's something internal that drives these guys and that makes these guys the best that have ever done what they did. And so that to me was the coolest part is I sat down with Mel Blount and I found out what he's doing now and the character behind the man. And those are the kind of things that I really enjoyed more than anything. And that's where maybe I feel like I belong a little bit, is that there was something inside of me that drove me and that was different than most of the guys that I played with. And I could see that in a lot of those guys when I had those side conversations. And that's really what resonated with me and what I took from that weekend more than anything else.
I'll bet they felt the same way about you, Kurt, when they sat down with you.
I'm not so sure, but hopefully, one day people will feel that same way about me.
How long did it take for you to write the speech?
I was kind of late in the game in when I started it, because I had some thoughts on where I wanted to go and the direction I wanted to go. But I kind of let it marinate for about 3 months, just kind of going, okay, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about different things that I want to put in there. And then it was really the last month and a half where I started to shape it. And I put a lot of time into it then because I wanted it to be right and I wanted the wording to be right. And, and for those that listen to it, just you realize that what I ended up doing was the whole story and my whole speech stopped when I got to the NFL. It had nothing to do for the most part with what happened once I got here, because it was well documented and people knew that story. For me, it was all those people that went into the journey and got me to my dream and allowed me to get to that point. It was the high school coaches that shaped me. It was the family. It was Al Luganville who, called me and then,
got you over to Europe
for some crazy reason, called me back when I already told him no once, called me back and gave me a shot. And then it was Dick Vermeil, as we talked about earlier, willing to stick his neck out to go, I'm going to give this guy a chance. But it was all about the people that shaped the man that ultimately shaped the football player. And, I don't know if everybody got that from it, but I wanted to make sure I thanked the people that I really felt were the ones that got me here, so to speak. And again, not that there wasn't great people and things that happened once I got to the NFL that were so instrumental, but it was those people that sustained me early on that really shaped my passion. And that's where I wanted to go with the speech. And so a lot of those people were there. I hope they were celebrated as much as I was celebrated through the speech, and that I hit on the right people and shared the right stories to really let people know who I was and why I am the way that I am.
Kurt, you have the gold jacket. That's something that you have earned. As you've watched these young guns in today's NFL, is there someone that jumps out, a Derek Carr, a Carson Wentz, a Dak Prescott? Is there anyone that kind of you would say, hey, that guy's got incredible talent. Someday he's going to wear the gold jacket. Is there anyone that's impressed you out of the young guns in today's NFL?
Obviously a number of them are pretty impressive. But the one, and you mentioned him, the one that I think has kind of separated himself is Derek Carr. The man behind it, the character that he displays, the incredible leadership, and then he's got that it factor to him. That he's not afraid to make a mistake, and he's not afraid to attack down the field. And I just think those guys, when I think about the quarterback position, those are the ones that really separate themselves, the ones that can do it down the field but aren't afraid to lose games for their team. Those other guys might get there, but I haven't seen those other guys get to that point yet. A lot of things I like about Jameis Winston, but he hasn't got to that point. Marcus Mariota, he keeps growing, but he's not there where he's ready to carry his team and lead his team and be the reason they win and lose. Dak Prescott the same way, Carson Wentz, again, all talented guys.
Yep.
But to me, Derek Carr has kind of separated himself in that. Like, put it on me. I will carry this team with my right arm, and I won't be afraid to screw it up either. And, Jaws, the best ones all have that. They're willing to win and lose games for their team, and they're okay, and they can put that on their shoulders, and they can move forward with that. And a lot of guys can't handle that, but Derek seems to be a guy to me that can.
Kurt, last question here from me. I'm going to Detroit this week, and I'm going to see Atlanta and Detroit. Matt Stafford and Matt Ryan. I know you announced some games for a while. I always feel like when you get real good quarterbacks and true gunslingers that have that no fear, that as an analyst, you could just sit back and enjoy it and not screw it up. I feel like if you watch that game this weekend, Kurt, I have a feeling that you're just going to enjoy that game and watch these guys make one throw after another.
Yeah, those are the games that I love. And especially, I love the shootouts where it continually falls on the quarterback's right arm to make plays for him. Those are the games that I love.
These guys can see the big smile on my face right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's back and forth. And, it's not just the physical, it's the mental of going, okay, he just did it. All right, now it's my turn. I remember the second to last game I ever played in against Aaron Rodgers. And it was, when he was young, so before maybe he became this guy. But it was the 51-45 wild card playoff game where, I think I had 4 incompletions and 5 touchdowns in that game. But when I go back and look at it, if I had one more incompletion, we might lose that game. And that to me was what was so great about that. It was back and forth and 2 guys saying, I am not going to be denied. I am going to find a way and I'm going to make the next play and you're going to have to answer me. And then I'm going to make another one. And those are the games, like you said, Baldy, that you just sit back and you smile because that to me is what quarterback play. You can play it a lot of different ways, but when the chips are down and you have to go throw for throw,
put it in 13's hands
with another great one, that's what you love. And as a analyst and being a quarterback, that's what I love to watch. And I just sit back and appreciate it. And most times, or obviously all the time, one of those guys has to lose. You guys remember the Peyton Manning Tony Romo game a couple years ago, where it was back and forth, and then Tony made that one interception and Denver wins the game. So somebody is ultimately going to make one mistake, but I love to relish those moments and go, okay, they did make one mistake and it was going to happen, but let's celebrate that moment because as you said, Jaws, I don't know how many times we're going to see that with great quarterback versus great quarterback, in the next 5 or 6 years, because who knows, Tom retiring, Drew retiring, these guys starting to get a little bit older. Will that next group of quarterbacks be able to go, stride for stride, throw for throw, like the great ones have the last couple decades?
Really? There's Sunday night, Manning, Brady, the one where Peyton comes back on them down big in the first half, and they come back on the Patriots. My God, that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. You can still see those games. And even back in the day, Roger Staubach versus Terry Bradshaw. I remember those games and how they would go back and forth. And you just have to relish those moments because they're so few and far between.
Kurt, thanks so much, man. We really appreciate hanging out in the Meat Locker with us.
You bet, guys. Anytime. We'll
Kurt, thank you very much.
Thanks,
love
Kurt.
to Brendan and the family.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Buddy.
All right. That was incredible stuff from Kurt Warner. My God. Just that whole journey, the whole story of everything. And I love what he talked about, the idea of the quarterbacks just slinging it, going up. Do you remember a game where it was like you're matched up and you're going score for score? Obviously, the game's changed a lot today, but I know you had those days, Charles.
Yeah. First of all, Anthony, that interview with Kurt Warner was really special. And it goes to show you the special person that he is, not only the great quarterback that he was and the Hall of Famer that he now is. And, I was fortunate, being close to Dick Vermeil and covering that run of their Super Bowl, through the playoffs and spending time, having dinner at Dick's house, spending time.
We'll give credit to that 1980 team in the tunnel coming out onto the field in Atlanta.
And that's how – and I actually lived our 1980 loss in the Super Bowl to Dick Vermeil vicariously.
That's awesome.
We were all pulling for Dick Vermeil, that 80 team that lost, because he's a special guy. He had bonded with a specific bonding with Kurt Warner. And it was just fun being part of that run and seeing, how they all got together in St. Louis. And
you seem like your father figure.
Oh, no question. There's no question. My dad passed away when I was a sophomore in college. And my mom, who's still alive, by the way, 95 years old, I love her to death, and she gave me, great leadership, discipline, and support. But she wasn't my dad.
Sure.
And so, there was times I got a little bit off the straight and narrow, and it was Dick Vermeil that really brought me down to earth, say, hey, this is how you play the game.
Yeah.
This is how you live your life.
Yeah.
So he really became that father image to me of the way you should do things the right way. I'm not talking about football.
Right. No,
I'm talking
Field.
about how to live my life,
Sure.
and how to deal with people and treat people with respect and dignity. And I know Kurt was the same way with Coach, and Kurt even said, hey, this guy had a gut feeling.
Yeah.
A freaking gut feeling, and the guy's in the Hall of Fame.
Right,
That's
he
a
threw
pretty
4
good
passes in the preseason.
Yeah, so but that's how
4.
but there was more to the talent level of Kurt Warner, and I know Dick Vermeil how he evaluates players as people, and he knew Kurt Warner would not only be a quality football player, but he a great locker room player. He would fit in with the persona of a Dick Vermeil. So you
how
kind
did
of
they
felt
miss him,
that
though?
would work.
How did they miss him, Jaws? Like the touch. Like we saw
Wait, can I interrupt you? Because there's a lot of idiots that evaluate the quarterback position. And I'll say it again. There's a lot of idiots that evaluate the quarterback position. I mean, look at the history of quarterback evaluation. They got a bunch of defensive linemen and tackles that evaluate their scouts. Now you're going to get me all fired up.
No, there's a big graveyard
Paul,
of
you
those
know
guys.
it, right? Hey, come on.
A big graveyard out there of guys. But, the thing that Kurt kept coming back to, though, Jaws, the thing that Kurt kept coming back to, and Vermeil saw in him, was leadership. When he went to New York, he had to lead in a different way. It wasn't 350 yards passing and 4 touchdowns anymore. That wasn't Coughlin's offense. He had to figure out a different way. It was part of the evolution you talk about, cuz. And so it's about leadership. And everybody that's been in a huddle, when that quarterback steps in, we're all looking at his eyes.
No question.
We're all looking at him.
Yeah. Hey.
Like, bail us out, bro.
Yeah. Hey.
Like,
Baldy, we sit there at NFL film. So draft time, we look at these quarterbacks, and, they all run the same damn boring system.
Big 12 offense.
Yeah, no one reads coverage anymore. And but then we'll get all these experts that, are evaluating the quarterback position based on their conversations with that quarterback's particular head coach who tells him how great he is.
Yeah.
This guy couldn't get in the huddle and lead anyone because he never has. He looks to the sideline
for a play,
for
or
a
chart,
picture. And
yeah.
It's amazing. And Baldy, you've been in the Senior Bowl, and you know how. I think last year, and I may be incorrect in this number, but it was 73% of the guys at the Senior Bowl were never in a huddle.
Right.
So, and Baldy said it right. The quarterback position, talent's important, but you also have to be a leader. When you walk in that huddle, 10 other guys know Kurt Warner's the man. Terry Bradshaw's the man. Dan Marino's the man. And not some slappy that really doesn't know how to lead. And there are a bunch of slappies out there that
imitate the leadership.
That imitate the leadership. So, that's why there's a problem at the quarterback position. Poor evaluation, guys can't lead. And I love when Kurt said guys like Derek Carr. What's the first thing he says about Derek Carr? Leadership.
Yeah.
And willing to be a risk taker.
Yeah.
Not afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of failure. Make a mistake. You know what? You'll learn from that mistake. Next time you won't make it.
I remember this about Derek Carr, Jaws. He actually played in the 4th preseason game his rookie year, and they played Seattle. And for whatever reason, Pete Carroll had his starting defense out there on the field. And this was the best defense in football by far. We know all the names are, the Legion of Doom and all that. So we know who all the guys are. He was fearless in attacking those guys. He won the job that day in the 4th preseason game. They didn't give Derek Carr the job.
Yep.
He took the job in that 4th preseason game. It started then. It hasn't stopped.
Yeah.
Did you have a trick? Did you have a trick? I mean, not a trick, but did you have, when you're in that huddle and you got guys like Baldy looking at you like, all right, let's go, bro. What was your go-to?
I'll give you one little story because, there's no one particular situation. There's no one particular group of people. I played 17 years, and each group of people are different.
Yeah.
But a story that jumps out in my mind, since we're in the Meatlocker, we tell stories in the Meatlocker,
Shit, yeah.
And we're playing a game in Philadelphia, and I'm not having one of my best games, And I'm ready to run on the field, and I think our offensive coordinator was Ted Plum. And he grabs me as the other 10 guys run on the field. So usually when you're having a bad game, you run out with the other 10 guys and kind of blend in, Yeah. So he pulls me back and gives me the play. So the other 10 guys are 40 yards away, Veteran Stadium. I run on the field, and I'm the only guy running on the field. Boo! Oh, I guess they're booing me. I couldn't believe it. So I get in the huddle, and this is like those defining moments, you know, and I could just see it. And I look in the huddle, and they're all looking at me to see how I'm going to react to it. And I went, they still love me.
You broke the ice. You broke the ice.
But it's little stuff like that.
That's cool.
That's cool. You know, that's not bothering me. It's not like, oh, guys, look at my eyes. Oh, you they don't like me. Oh, you know, hey, they still love me. And you know what? Everyone laughs and you go and you play. You know that's.
But you know, Jaws, for years you did Monday Night Football. So you know, this weekend the Cardinals play the Cowboys. So you'd be talking to Carson Palmer, you'd be talking to Dak Prescott in the preparation, right? How many times, Jaws, when that quarterback walks into the room, you know right away, especially if it's a new or a young guy, you're like, that guy doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. Like you can talk to a guy in that meeting room with your producer and with whoever's doing play-by-play, all that stuff, and you get a feel when you talk to that guy, if he can lead, not lead.
I love the way Baldy just looked at me right now because he knows. And he's 100% right. And, someday I'm going to write an expose book, because I save all my notes like you do. And I got all this stuff and, 5 years of
all
Monday
those great
Night Football.
stories. I want to read that.
And literally, you could tell. I mean, I'll specifically go to quarterbacks because you talk to coaches, you talk to everybody. And when a guy walks in the meeting room and talks to you like this,
looking down at his toes,
you're looking down at the ground or playing with a napkin, I'm like, get out of here.
Right.
It would be like a John Gruden when he used to when he was a coach, and how he would like work quarterbacks' minds and say, get the hell out of my room. Testing guys. That's what I really wanted to say. And there are a number of quarterbacks that actually that had okay careers. Never won squatto.
Right.
Never won, but because they couldn't look you in the eye. They didn't have the leadership that you have to have. So, the meek approach to it. And there are, and it.
Look, I mean, I just throw it up in the Meatlocker. I got no problem. I mean, Joey Harrington never had it. Third pick in the draft for Marty Morningweg in Detroit. You walk in that meeting, Jaws, and he did not have it. Like there was no.
He was playing the piano in the meeting.
I mean, I never asked him to play the piano, Jaws. I kicked him out of the meeting one time. I kicked him out. I said I had enough of him. Yeah. I just had enough.
Yeah, but there are guys. You sit and you talk to a guy for a half hour, and you really know in 3 minutes if this guy has the leadership skills, and then eventually those players get exposed by other teams. Yeah. They don't play well enough. They're
their
not
own team.
Their own team. They're not respected in the locker room. And they just fall by the wayside, and they become one of those guys that last 3 years or less, like most NFL players.
It's amazing. And all I keep thinking about is the professional athlete and Kevin Durant, who made up Twitter names so he can defend himself in the third person.
Yeah.
And I think, like,
hiding in the shadows.
All I keep thinking about is, like, I'm sitting with you two, all right, and you guys talk about dirt still underneath your fingernails. And all I keep thinking about...
Baldy gets his manicured now.
I just bit him on the way over here, George.
I go, all right. Would you guys...
I cleaned him up for the Meatlocker. Shoot him off.
Would you two meats ever make up a fake Twitter account?
I don't even know how to make up a Twitter account, much less a fake one.
I got Jason Jones. Jason, make up a couple fake Twitter accounts.
The fake Meatlocker.
Fake news, fake Meatlocker. Right?
It's unbelievable.
Hey, this show's getting so good, there's probably going to be a fake Meatlocker.
Yes, there will be a parody, a Meatlocker parody. Thanks for listening. That was episode 3 of your Meatlocker. And don't forget, bonus edition picks. I'll just tell you this: Jaws was 13-3 last week.
I apologize.
So make sure you check out the bonus coverage of the Meatlocker.
It might have been better, but he didn't know Bradford wasn't playing.
Thank you, Baldy. If I'd have known that, 14-2, bro.
Picks.
He didn't get the Sammy Sleeves report.
It is the Meatlocker. Thanks for listening, everybody. You ready, boys?
Let's go. We're the Meatlocker.